Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into today's webcast with TNS. My name is Zina M. Pagan, and I am ARF's Marketing Manager. I will be your moderator for today. Before we begin learning about research clones, I will go over a few housekeeping items. For the best webcast experience, please keep yourself muted and your computer web camera turned off. Unfortunately, if you do turn on your cameras or unmute yourselves, I will have to disconnect your access to today's webcast as it can be disruptive. The audio will be streamed. This means that you will be able to hear us throughout your computer speakers. However, if you would like to use the teleconference option, I will post the information on how to access the phone on the chat box. Should you have any questions during the session, please send these to me using the chat box. The session will be recorded. If you would like to view the recorded event, it will be available within 2 weeks from today. We are extending the conversation on social media. If you would like to join me, please use hashtag ARF Webcast. If you're interested in hosting a webcast, please contact me at zina@thearf.org. The ARF does have a few events coming up. The Leadership Lab has been back for our summer session. Our 6th class is tomorrow and will run through September 8th. The topic for this course is centered around cross-platform measurement. If you would like to know about the Leadership Lab for our winter session, please stay tuned as we are finalizing our programming for that. We are also hosting several webcasts as part of our Webcast Wednesday program. If you're interested in any of these events or other ARF programs, please check our website for further details. And without further delay, I present to you Pridit Sudha from TNS. Pridit, please give our attendees an overview of what you do for TNS and for the industry. Pridit?
Can you see slides?
I can hear you now, yes, and I can see your slides.
Okay, fine. Okay, so let's start. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Pridit and I work for Kantar TNS London office. I'm a lead data scientist here. And before I start, let me clarify. This presentation is not about human cloning because today in the afternoon I got a call from someone and said that, am I talking on human cloning? So if you are here for that, please switch off, go back. Okay, and actually the story goes that Zina actually, when we were discussing about this presentation, she wanted for me to have a catchy name. And I gave her a very technical name and she was like, no, it doesn't have a sex appeal. So I said, okay, fine, I'll give you something which has a catchy name, and that's where this research clones come in. Though there's a long story behind that, actually speaking. So for the last 5 years, I have been working on several digital analytics for quite some time, well, last 5 years. And a lot of this actually works side by side with traditional market research, which what you can see as qualitative and quantitative. And often with time, I've seen that these techniques, the newer techniques, have actually replaced the older ones. In a wider sense, actually several of our artificial intelligence enabled techniques are actually removing the need for traditional researchers. So in a sense, the machines are actually removing the requirement for a lot of traditional researchers. We still need humans. So it's not that humans are going out of need, but in fact, trained data scientists with research mindset are actually replacing big teams of around 10 to 16 research market researchers. And going forward, I feel that this will increase over time in different countries. I work in UK, certainly US, UK are quite ahead of the game, and I see being replicated in different countries. Okay, so what's the plan today? So what's in store? So I will talk through some basic client problems. So like different client problems which we see often. I'll devote some time on data extraction. I won't go into technicalities, but it's quite important. So I'll devote some time on that. Then I will talk about 3 examples, namely segmentation and tracking, virality modeling, and product ideation. Now, these are very broad topics. Honestly speaking, I'll be just touching them very briefly. In fact, I can speak for hours and hours on these, just one individual topic. So it will be a quick presentation. So please pay attention. Like it's 30 to 45 minutes. Please don't look around if there are any beautiful girls around or guys around, just pay attention. Okay, I'll go through them very quickly. So please pay attention. You'll just tolerate me for 30, 45 minutes. You might learn something interesting, probably. Let's see. So it will be flavor of different things that are possible using like data science, artificial intelligence, whatever you call it nowadays. Okay. So typical client problems. Now, certainly all clients have different problems, and it's difficult to actually put them into different buckets, but I've tried to put them more or less into three buckets. Let's see. So one is exploration. So this is where data science directly comes eye to eye with the qualitative guys, and then it moves into the arena of quantitative. This is where we actually uncover the known and the unknown, and the unknown and the unknown. So let's give an example. This is a bit of a kind of poetic thing, but let's explain what I'm meaning. So I had a client which deals in chocolates. So they wanted to understand, Prerit, let us understand exactly how are our chocolates being used presently in the present scenario. Can we find some new ways how the same chocolate can be used? Can we create new products? Or say, for example, we create new use of those new products, and how do we communicate it in a different way, which has never been done before? This traditionally might be a qualitative kind of thing where you do these focus groups and all, but well, nowadays they are looking more from a digital analytics perspective. Another which we had was like, say, a request came in. Prerit, we want to understand experience of different tourists in London. So, okay, fine. Find them. What are their problems? Understand the experience, quantify it, and then give us a report. So this actually creates like a kind of a global focus group with also a quantified survey. So in a sense, the data science has more or less replaced a traditional qual and a quant. So list can goes on and on. So this part, the exploration, I will talk at the end part. So like one of what I was saying, the three examples, I'll keep it at the end. I won't go into details because there are too many cookie cutter approach, like different approaches for this thing. I'll give you a brief glimpse on that. Second part is evaluation and optimization, the second bucket. This is where the traditional analysis of marketing campaign, event analysis, product launch comes in. This is where client comes in and says that, you know what, we are doing a digital campaign or a traditional marketing campaign. We want to understand how did we perform. Basis this, have our sales increased? Has there been any behavioral change or any such kind of stuff? I would say analyze a TV show, how are characters being perceived, is there any need for changing the storyline, those kind of stuff. So that's where they are using digital analytics to do this kind of stuff. Now, I won't go into specific because this is a very wide topic and it can go on and on. But I have taken a wider topic which often stems out of these evaluation and optimization, which I'm calling as virality modeling, and I'll talk about that. And the last topic, which last bucket, is track and predict. So say, for example, in survey world, we often do a lot of segmentations. We do a lot of brand tracking. A lot of that is now being replaced by social data, digital data. Certainly the mechanics are different because say in survey, you are explicitly asking questions. But in social data, it's quite different because it is a mined data. It's digitally mined data where you're actually creating answers to traditional survey questions using machine interpretations. So the techniques are different. You are getting the same end result, but certainly how you do it is different. And here a lot of artificial intelligence, what you call it, comes into picture. I'll talk briefly about how survey created segmentations can be superimposed onto social data. Again, this is a very complicated topic. I'll just scratching the surface. Okay. Data. This is actually, generally I talk about this topic, data extraction, only when I'm talking to hardcore data scientists. But because this topic is so important, I thought I'll just devote maybe 1 or 2 minutes on that. Data extraction, I feel, is the most important but often neglected. I have a very strong feeling that, you know what, if you don't do this right, if you don't extract it right, it's better don't do it, because all the analysis that is going to follow is crap if you don't do this part right. I have certainly a very strong preference for full data providers, which are like, say, GNIP, DataShift, APIs, or creating self-crawlers, because the data otherwise extracted using other systems is either incomplete, dirty, or restrictive. And I mean, it has become a bit of a principle for me that data has to be relevant and complete as much as possible, because a lot of now one of the problem with social data or digital analytics, a lot of people feel that they cannot rely on it. It's like, is it reliable? Can you actually take like change decisions which will change like the like very big implication which can change the history of a nation or any such kind of stuff? Can you actually put that kind of trust on digital data analytics? And I have actually seen that certain decisions have been based on some of the analysis which we have done in last few years, and that's why it has become more of a kind of ethical thing. Well, for us, that, you know what, we have to get data as much relevant and as much complete, and that's why we get data from typical full data providers rather than going for specific softwares. A bit more on data. Certainly, I'm not going into that, but to keep in mind that different data sources have different variables and there are no commonalities. So merging them together, like fusing them or using the data insights of from different sources together. So say, for example, Twitter is different from Facebook, and when you are then linking them with survey or CRM or such kind of data sets, those are very different. So personally, I feel that there is no specific science in it. Yes, there are scientific ways, but it becomes more of an art rather than a science, and that's where a lot of research mindset comes in rather than a typical IT mindset. Let's move into examples, segmentations and tracking. So often in marketing, we have that brands segment their consumers. Now, when it comes to segmentation, there are different segmentation techniques. So some companies use, say, segmentation techniques like the statistical ones, which are like the K-means, two steps, and those kind of stuff. Or some agencies have their own proprietary systems, which are like, say, in TNS, we have something called need scope. In added value, which is another WPP company, they have something called 6W. And other different companies, GFK, Ipsos, have different kinds of things. Now, what we have developed over time is basically we take a survey created segmentation, anything, either a proprietary or a statistically created segmentation using which was created by the client in the past, superimpose onto social data, then that goes into a programmatic buying. So programmatic buying is nowadays quite a buzzword, and this actually gives the intelligence, the kind of targeting strategy for what the media buying companies then take it for programmatic buying. So let's show you an example. I'll take the most difficult one, which is need scope, which is actually our in-house segmentation technique, which is technically what we call as emotion, which is a kind of emotion-based segmentation, simplistically speaking. In that, all the consumers are basically divided into 6 segments, and then there are different layers of it. So there are emotional layers, social identification type of layers, functional layers, and product attribution. I'll tell you exactly what these jargony words are. So let's take an example. So recently I did some stuff on, say, coffee. So we did a coffee segmentation. So in that we had 6 segments. One segment was stimulation. Now, stimulation. So in that, there was an emotion which was, say, dynamic and wild. What does this mean? So people who belong to stimulation segment would often have emotion around, say, wild and dynamic. Now, the challenge comes in that, like, when people are drinking coffee, how do they feel wild? Now, it's like dynamic, it's still easier to understand, but how do people feel wild when they are actually drinking coffee? but because it's this need scope has been superimposed or created by the client for whatever reasons, we have to then superimpose onto social data. Now, wild, if you look into from a broader perspective, is an implicit feeling which was created by this need scope. Now, implicit feeling then has to be coded into something what we call as explicit expression. Now, explicit expression. So, how do people actually express wild? So, when they drink coffee and they feel wild, but it's just an implicit expression. So, how do we make it explicit? So that's a challenge, and that's where a lot of secondary research comes in. So we try to understand, okay, fine, this is the implicit feeling. How does it get converted into explicit expression? We then combine it with when they are saying that they are feeling wild when drinking coffee, what are they doing? Where are they doing? How are they doing the coffee drinking? And why are they drinking coffee? All this is then fed into artificial intelligence miners. So these are basically a combination of say text mining algorithms or image mining or whatever you call it. Certainly, just to clarify, this does require a lot of secondary research, qualitative understanding, and a creative interpretation, and then superimposing on artificial intelligence miners. Now, once the computer is taught about it, it comes out with its own interpretations. It's a bit of an iterative process, and then when we are happy with it, the like data is then classified into different segments. So it's like millions of tweets or Facebook posts are then classified into those 6 segments that I talked about it. Now, once this lengthy process is done, what we find now, once when we do that, one of the basic thing that we find is certainly survey data and social data. Generally, if you do it right, if you do the artificial intelligence stuff right, generally they fall in line with each other, except in a few kinds of situations. So, say for example, sometimes there are certain kinds of segments which have certain kinds of emotions which are more introverted. Now, those segments are often are less represented on the digital data, because if someone is an introvert, they won't actually speak about it or tweet about it or like something. So that's why you have to accept that, you know what, digital data can cover certain kinds of segments quite nicely. They will be higher indexed. Certain segments will be lower indexed, and that's okay, fine. You have to have a proportional expectations of how you target them, and that's how you move into this. Certainly, that's a kind of catch when you convert survey data into social data. Now let's move further. What you're seeing here is basically all the algorithms are then superimposed on platform by platform data. So that gives you exactly what is your going to be a targeting strategy. So say for example, in this, what you are seeing in the graph, probably elation, I will actually target on Facebook, while say contentment segment, I'll target on blog or forums kind of thing, while stimulation, I'll target on Twitter. And there's a customized message, it's like that we create for each and every social network. Now, what I've shown here, okay, fine, that's good too. Okay, fine, that's good. But let's make it more complicated. Now, the beauty of social does not lie purely in sizing of segments, or it's like just doing what I showed you before. It lies in creating the segments of one, of what we call, or let's say, nano segments. Now, so each 6 segments that I was talking about, that I showed you before, now those are further classified or further distributed into 70 plus different nano segments. And it's like, just to give a comparison, certainly your qual or quant cannot actually create 70 different nano segments for each segment, which is like how much, 500 different segments. They cannot be tested, while the computers can actually create those kind of things. Now, these nano segments help us decide how to target, when to target, where to target, with what to target, and whom to target. What does this mean? So, if I want to target for a coffee advertisement someone who falls into say nano segment A, so I want to understand, or if I want to target, okay, fine, this person has to be at a cafe or a Yankee stadium. He might be eating a bagel or a cookie, and he is with a girlfriend or his family. and I want a specific kind of emotion-led messaging, and it's like I can go with a certain kinds of confidence that I will get this many number of people, and this is going to be the kind of results that I will get. So this kind of a thing is pre-planned and created basis what you are seeing right now. So it's like nano segments help us do exact quantified programmatic targeting. Now, humans are complex, and that's a problem. And especially when you are trying to create some kind of algorithms around humans, that's a problem. Now, what I explained to you before is still simple. Let's further complicate it. Now, different nano segments that I said, well, like 500 different nano segments that I talked about, often humans want human psyche can be such that it's a combination of different emotions, and that's where we have to combine actually different well, psychographic nano segments. Now what you are seeing here is basically such kind of interrelational combinations between those different nano segments. This is like in traditional analytics we had something like, say, correlation map, something like that. So this actually gives you different combinations between those different nano segments. So you know exactly, so you can create thousands of different communication options basis which your media buying agency is like, and decide how to target and how do you want to well, create different kinds of nano segment led interrelational targeting. So someone might, so you want to target for someone who wants to do who wants to show off with his coffee. He wants to also feel refreshed, but he wants to also buy a coffee which is value for money. Now this well, kind of person can fall into different kinds of means nano segments. So you can combine these different combinations and see how much can you target, what is the volume that you will get, and where will you get, when will you get, how will you get, and so you have better understanding of how do you create your programmatic algorithmic codes. Lastly, so let's make it further more interesting. Now, whatever I talked before was with respect to coffee. Now, probably coffee is just 1% of my life. It does not matter more than 1%. So this graph that you are seeing, it tells you what matters in your life apart from coffee. So it's like here we actually well, go beyond the coffee from a personal point of view. So say for example a person who falls in, say, segment A, at 7 a.m. he cares about horoscope. At noon he cares for Beyonce, and by night he cares about his family. So by that, media agencies get more options to actually decide on how they want to target their target audience. And here, I mean, if you look into it, there are thousands and thousands of combinations that you can play around with. You can quantify each of them, and then you can decide how you want to target, and you have much more strategic understanding of how you are targeting. Lastly, what you are seeing here is basically nano segments which are activated on digital mediums, and this is just an example of it. So here we basically superimpose such kind of nano segments on Twitter, and we saw exactly how much volumes are we getting, what kind of response are we well, getting for each of the segments that we decided to target on. Certainly you can track each of those segments, how they are moving over time, how they are evolving over time, and certainly then you can also use some of the funny or more complicated predictive modeling, link it with sales and those kind of things. I won't go into those details. Okay, now, so what I talked was a bit more complicated. So it's like it did require some kind of understanding of programmatic buying, but that certainly shows the power of digital analytics, how the computers can actually create thousands and thousands of combinations which actually human mind cannot even comprehend, and that actually opens up array of like opportunities, well, for the advertisers, for the media agencies to exploit on. So okay, fine. The previous stuff was a bit more complicated if you have if you have no knowledge of programmatic buying. The other one, well, the next example that I'm trying to bring is a bit more easier. So take a deep breath, drink water, then we start on the second topic. Okay, now this has lesser slides, a bit easier. So let's see how it. If you haven't gone well, left the presentation. Let's see if you can tolerate this one. Okay. Now, um, viral propagation. So, in fact, the interesting thing is that whenever I talk to marketeers, one of the interesting things, well, two things that they often talk nowadays is I want to make my video go viral. In fact, it's like not only the corporate clients or the public sector clients. It's basically, even I work with a charity, and it's like the first thing that they've said that, you know what, we want to make a video go viral. And we will show exactly what kind of stuff we have found on virality. And second stuff, which is quite a bit of a buzzword, is influencer marketing. So let's start with some basic stuff, and then we go into more of a complicated stuff. Okay. Now, what you are seeing here is what we call as an influence map. Now, what is this showing? Now, here all these different dots are tweeters. So anyone who has tweeted about your, say, campaign, about your topic or whatever, they are basically shown by different dots. Now whenever these tweeters reference amongst themselves, retweet or whatever, or reply, they are linked by a line. So basically this one graph in one snapshot tells you who is speaking about your campaign or your event or your topic or whatever. Now, what does this help? Okay, fine, it looks cool, sexy, but what does it help? Okay, now this helps you find out different influencers, so people who are impactful, who are much more influential with relation to your topic or your campaign or whatever, and quantify their impact. It also helps you understand the impact of media. It helps you also quantify the paid, owned, and earned media. Okay, now let's further complicate. What you are seeing here is a point in time. So it's like whoever has tweeted about you from, say, let's say last 3 months, all conversations are shown here in one snapshot. Next, what you will observe is a map which is being formed, this map being created in real time as it happens. Let's see. So what you're seeing here is basically, well, it's a graph which is showing how a video actually spread on Twitter. So it shows you day by day. In fact, sometimes we also created by minute, how people are tweeting it and how things are evolving and spreading. Now, how does this help? Now, if you look into this graph, if you are actually looking into it, you might have noticed that suddenly there's this means this brown, well, the violet thing which has popped up. That actually shows when a video actually went viral. Now, using this technique, with basically this network graphing in real time, you can actually understand the point of inflection. So that's when the point, it's like when a video actually goes viral. So you can understand what are the kind of message which actually got them to go viral, and who tweeted it and when did they tweet it. So you have an understanding, okay, fine, why did it go viral? Okay. Now, you might say, okay, fine, this is just one video. Okay, fine, it's easier to understand. But I want to find patterns in spread of successful videos. Okay, so let's talk about that. And in fact, the next slide that I'm going to talk about is part of a wider study that we actually did for Twitter and was showcased in Cannes 2016. That talks about how successful videos actually spread over time. So what we did here, we studied a list of several successful and non-successful videos, branded and non-branded, analyzed the emotions and executions of that video. That was done more from a qualitative perspective. Then it was followed by text mining of viewer response. So every video gets some kind of a viewer response. We use like kind of text mining for that. And then that was followed by some kind of analytical techniques like Jade, CART, Bayesian belief networks. So all this combined helped us understand what are different success drivers, what actually makes a video go successful. I won't call the viral because it's too like cliche and too fancy word. So I will use, okay, fine, what makes a video go successful, become successful. Now, before I actually explain what this graph is, well, it's not a graph, it's a representation. Well, let me explain what this thing is, and for that I have to explain laps. Now, this is right now the Olympics are going on, so let's see if this analogy helps. So, let's say your video actually starts from, say, lap 1. So lap 1 is basically when the video is uploaded on YouTube or Twitter, and that's where it starts running. So imagine it's actually means it was uploaded, people start tweeting it, retweeting it, so it's like the video's journey has started. So the first lap is like a first few hours when the video gets shared and tweeted and all. Second and third lap are basically it's like when you actually move over days. So like 5 days or 10 days or whatever. So that's when video is getting shared, but the frequency has gone down. So the speed of its spread has gone down. And fourth lap is the last lap when basically people then stop caring about that video, stop sharing it, and almost 98% of the tweeting has happened by then, and it's almost dead. Okay. Now, if you divide that kind of a journey into 4 laps, so what we found is like in the first lap, which is in the first, the immediate, well, from the point you actually upload it, in that time, if you actually want to make a video successful in that first lap, it's the idea of being in the moment. So generally in the moment, get an immediate success in lap 1, have a higher probability of having in lap 1. Second and third lap is where the second level influencers become much more powerful. So these are like, so first level influencers are like say Beyonce and Kim Kardashian, and those are like very big people. But then the second level influencers are like your mini celebrities in your friend circle, your colleagues and all. So these are the guys who actually keep on pumping the videos across different types of people, and that which helps sustain the spread of the video. The fourth lap is when the tail, so it's like that's where the continued interest in the video. So that's where emotions like hope and pride come into picture. So like people, well, the videos who have some kind of a hope and pride, that actually keeps on attracting people coming back to the video, and that increases well, the kind of interest in the video, that creates a bit of a long term impact of that video, because all the first lap is more like momentary. Second and third lap, okay, fine, that's fine, but the fourth lap is where the long term impact of your video comes in. Okay, now what I talked about, okay, fine, that's good, but it's from a commercial context. We have done similar kind of analysis, well, certainly observed such kind of behaviors in different sectors. So certainly commercial, well, it's like the way how people share it and understand it and how they look at different videos or tweets or whatever is different compared to say like public sector, government, telecom, politics, etc. So there's a slightly different mechanism which comes across from different sectors, and we have observed that. And it's like this kind of understanding is then used into different situations. So what are those different situations? One is basically monitor ongoing campaigns with real-time interventions. So it's like when we understand the basic patterns of how things spread, that helps us understand that if things are going to go wrong, when to intervene, and it's like how to intervene. And it's like these are like say, well, more from a like sci-fi perspective, like say anti-aircraft systems kind of thing. Okay. Second, intervene or pre-intervene in an ongoing crisis. In fact, it's like this kind of understanding. Well, it's like it has actually helped. I shouldn't say that, but actually it has helped avoid a major city on this planet from growing into a standstill. And it's like this is possible. It's just that you have to use some clever analytics. Machines can do a lot of stuff if guided properly by humans. Lastly, the post-mortem of an event. Certainly when things have happened, understand, okay, fine, why did it go wrong? How did it go wrong? Or why did it go right? And why was it successful? Okay, now the last part. So if you are not yet bored and if you haven't left in the presentation, is the last part. I will actually go through it quite quickly because probably Zina would be like getting fuming on me. So it's like, why are you still running? Well, I think I am on time, but let's see. Okay. Now, the last part is where we come eye to eye with qualitative research, guys. Now, this is what we call a social usage and attitude or exploration or whatever. So this is where things like, say, product ideation or say, well, it's like things like communication strategizing or those kind of, or category understanding comes into picture. So I've actually kept like well 3 or 4 slides which I won't go through. So the slides which can come after that, and those are like for your homework. So like if you aren't still yet bored from listening to me, like you can go through them. As like those are self-explanatory. I won't go into that. But what I will go through is like, I'll give some examples of how digital analytics can be used in different scenarios. So it's not like it works only for B2C, or it also works for B2B or different kinds of things. Let's give an example. So like say for example, once a pet food company actually asked us to create like well some ideas which were then used for creation of new food for say pets. Okay, so that the entire product was created purely basis digital analytics. So like there was no qual involved, no quant involved. It's well, but the thing is the qualitative research was done using digital, and certainly it was then quantified using digital. The second example can be like a bank, and they recreated their entire international banking product, or bits and pieces of their international banking product. It's like largely based on digital analytics. Or say for example, a margarine well company, a margarine producer, actually created their entire creative communication strategy basis digital analytics. In fact, tourism. So it's like this kind of stuff, which is like more understanding the product and then well finding answers and creating new ideas. So means the tourism department in means southern part of Europe actually use this to understand what tourists coming to that means area were feeling, and how they can actually improve or create better services. Now the thing with this kind of analysis is that the previous analysis, once you create an algorithm, you can then create it, transport it across different sectors to a very large extent. This kind of product ideation is quite different. There's no cookie cutter approach. So it's like we actually, so a human has to work alongside algorithms. So like you well create like first step. So like you create 50% of the code, then computer takes it over. It finds and recreates its own understanding of the topic. Then you actually help the computer again refine it, and that's where the entire process happens. So it's a combination of you understanding the machine and machine understanding you, and that's where means a research mindset is more important rather than just a computer mindset. And certainly the remaining slides is, I mean, some of the work that we done for margarine. I won't go into that. Well, you can read it in your home leisurely time. It's like that's like a wordy slides. I won't go into that. But what I will talk through is one last thing which I'm actually quite excited, and we did sometime well, it's like a few a few days back, a few months back, I would say probably. And that's where it's an interesting thing which I find is basically using location for ideation. So well, what it is, so basically using location data, geofenced locational data for ideation. So like where we use social data alongside weather data versus publicly available data, which is governmental public sector data, and along with some other data to find out what people feel, do, say, how they do it, where they do it, when they are in a certain locality. Now, this I found it quite useful in finding ideas for, say, tourism, restaurants, and security agencies. And I've given you a quick snapshot of it. It's not exactly that area, but I've just means given you example of, say, for example, if people are in this locality, how many people were there, what were they doing it, how were they doing it, and this gives you some very good ideas of how to actually create certain new things which give a new kind of experience for your means for your means consumers, tourists, or whatever. And again, all these things, it's like what I've talked about, means are certainly new. They have their own like disadvantages, advantages. It's not a perfect science. It requires a lot of artistic thinking, means a lot of interpretive kind of playing around. But yes, it's a new area where you actually, if you do it right, it actually comes out to be quite powerful. And if you use the right combination of human intelligence, it's like with machine rigor, it actually turns out to be quite useful and much more powerful than a lot of things that probably researchers in the today's world do. And I think that these things, in a sense, in coming years, will actually replace a lot of research teams that we actually know of. And that's it. Probably for Americans, it's the lunchtime, or probably you already had your lunch. Zena, over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So we do have a couple of questions in. If anybody else has any other questions, please submit them through the chat box and I'll read them out. First question, can you elaborate on some of the problems you face in the use of data from multiple sources like Facebook, Twitter, Google, Stripe data?
Yes, means I think one of the basic thing is that all these data sets don't talk to each other. So like different data sets actually give you different kinds of data variables, it's like which cannot be combined with each other. So say for example, means if I just explain it a bit differently. So say for example, Twitter. So it's 100% access. It's a free-flowing network, but it doesn't have things like say demograph, and it's less used. So certainly for demograph, we have to create some kind of variables for that. For Facebook pages, those are informative, but those are restrictive, and the kind of meta variables that you get from it are quite restrictive. Facebook private, again, it's a very powerful tool, but no raw data. So the kind of analysis that you can do on them is quite restrictive. So because of the, and like Google search data. So Google search data is just like a kind of number that you get, and it's like you don't get a lot of other qualitative kind of means playing around that you can do with other data sets. So how you actually combine them, and like certainly you can, and just to clarify, so it's not like Prerit actually was tweeting something on and then he was saying something on Facebook page and then they were saying something on Facebook private. That kind of link is not possible. So you are actually working more on holistic numbers, on like the overall numbers rather than going by user level kind of numbers, and that's where it becomes quite complicated. It's not a simple data fusion problem. It's basically what kind of data insights are you taking from what data, how much are you weighting them, and how much are you looking at what different things are coming up from different sources, how much you actually take them seriously or non-seriously, or how much do you weight them. So it comes into more of a kind of it's like how much importance you actually means give to each data, how you actually look them in the overall schema.
Next question. You stressed on the importance of data and extraction. How do you compare different monitoring platforms, and do you have any specific preferences?
Okay. Well, it's like I think it's like when I talked about data, I think it's like means I talked about that, and means like I do means I think I've already talked that means I do have a very strong preference when it comes to the likes of the actual data vendors, which are like say Guinea, Datashift, API, or it's like in some cases even the scrape data and such kind of things, because I feel that one, digital data is not a perfect data. It has loads of missing data, it has loads of dirty data, but it also has a lot of metadata. And it's like sometimes I feel that the social media monitoring tools that we technically use, I mean it's a lot of people use, actually does not give me the full kind of means flexibility. It's like that I can have with the actual raw data. Plus, it's like some of the things, like say for example, a lot of our existing tools are more keyword based, but I felt that in a lot of cases, almost around 60%, almost around 50 to 60% of data is lost if you only look at keywords, but the existing systems just are keyword based systems. It's like, so that's why my preference is more for getting data directly from the data providers, APIs, or actually using different crawlers to actually extract the data. And that's where we can be much more creative. Certainly, it's much more like labor intensive. You have to have a lot of understanding of it's like different data schemes that they are using, how you actually extract from there, how you actually make sense out of it. But certainly, that's where the power of a lot of stuff that I talked about comes into picture. So certainly, I have a preference for the direct data vendors.
Okay, next question. How do you see future of traditional market research?
Okay, well, means I think I've talked about that means a few times, and personally, I feel that means a lot of what we see as traditional research will actually means replaced by a lot of these data science kind of things. I'm not saying that it will be totally gone. So surveys will still remain, qualitative will still remain, but the kind of impact that they have is and will go down. Also, the kind of amount of means money that clients actually put into research will actually keep on moving to these newer techniques because they are much more faster. They are much more means they are much more faster. They can go much more deeper, and for only certain kinds of things which cannot be done with these newer techniques, that will still remain with survey and these traditional research techniques. But apart from that, means I do feel that as we move on, these things, these analytic tools, the ones that I talked about, and certainly a lot of other people are also doing a lot of things on this side, will actually replace or cut down, was like take away a lot of business from the traditional means research. Certainly, it will actually move differently in different countries. So certainly, US, UK, these are much more advanced countries, and things will move much more at a faster pace compared to other countries which are like say India. Those are slightly at a much more slower pace, but sooner or later these things will become quite widespread.
Next question. What are some of the use cases? Is it you, Parrot?
I think I have a kind of let's see.
Attention, please.
Yeah, we have a fire alarm.
There has been an incident reported within the building. Please stand by for further announcements.
Yeah, I think it's like I have just take one more question, and I think I'll have to go down.
Okay, if you can. What are some of the use cases? All right.
Yeah, that can't be done by the newer techniques.
Attention, please. There has been an incident reported within the building.
Yeah, I think I'll have to go down. Sorry for that.
Okay, no problem. I'll send you the question via email.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll answer them separately.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for that. Okay, bye-bye. Okay.
Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I apologize for that. I do thank you all for joining our webcast today. Special thanks to Parrot and TNS for taking the time to present their study with the ARF to our lunchtime crowd. I hope you all join us for our next webcast next week on August 24th on Ghost Ads. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.